I would like to call to order the regular meeting of the City of Cottonwood Planning and Zoning Commission in the Cottonwood Community Clubhouse. Megan, can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Garrison?
Present.
Commissioner DeSisto? Commissioner Romeo? Not present.
Not present.
Commissioner Kling? Commissioner Richter? Not present.
President, Commissioner Romeo is coming.
Vice Chairman Maston?
Present.
Chairman Williams?
Present. All right, our next item of business is the approval of the minutes of our March 15th, 2021 regular meeting. Do I have any additions, deletions, or corrections? If not, I'll make a motion. Do we approve those minutes? Do I have a second? Mr. DeSisto seconds the motion. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Informational reports and updates. Mr. Director, do you have anything for us today?
Yes, good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commission. I do want to remind everybody, please push the button on your microphone and speak into it clearly so everybody can hear you. Also, let the Commission know that the May meeting will be held back in the council chambers across the street. And the special meeting that we were going to have tonight at 5:30, as you know, was canceled. We're going to go ahead and do that at the May meeting instead at 5:30, so it'll be what was supposed to have happened tonight. Also, I want to let you know that the two ordinances that the Commission heard last month for AR 87 zone and signs, the allowing additional height with conditional use permit, will be a second reading tomorrow night at City Council. For the AR 87 zone, the Council did choose to bring back the version that does allow manufactured homes as a conditional use, not a permitted use. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for the Director? All right.
Yes. Question? Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, Lindsay. Yes.
Sorry. Mr. Director, in regards to the City Council moving forward with the original text of the new zoning, is that typical to provide them with multiple options? And if it's not, why did the city choose to provide them with a secondary option besides what was recommended by planning and zoning?
Vice Chair Maston, that's a very good question. During the informational reports and updates, we're not able to discuss any of these matters, but we can have that discussion offline tomorrow if you would like.
That's fine. Thank you.
Very good. All right. The next item is the call to the public. This is where if anybody would like to address the commission on any item that's not on our agenda, you're welcome to come forward. No action can be taken by the commission and there will be no discussion. I don't have any sign-up sheets, so I assume nobody would like to talk to the commission on a non-agenda item. Before we proceed further, if anybody has a cell phone, we'd appreciate you please muting your cell phone or turning it off to avoid any interruptions while we're making our presentations. Tonight we have a full house, and to accommodate, and I'm sure most of those people, based on the cards I have in front of me, are here to discuss item number 2, which is a conditional use permit for the Verde River Vortex campground. So we're going to amend our agenda tonight to move that up to the first item for consideration. Commissioner Garrison? You won't be stepping down? You will be. Yes, Commissioner Garrison will be stepping down on this particular item. All right. Mr. Davis, are you the presenter for us tonight?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. This is a request for a conditional use permit to allow a campground use, which is listed as a conditional use in the GA zone, general agriculture. You can see on this, the site is cross-hatched. It's in the northern part of the general agriculture zone. On the north is parcels that are zoned AR20. They are also owned by the same property owner. To the west, there's a little strip of C1 land, and to the farther west is the Gray Fox Ridge subdivision. To the south is the north end of Old Town.
Gary, while we're on that slide, would
Yes.
you address the difference between general agriculture and AR20, is the distinction?
General agriculture has a minimum lot size of, I believe, 5 acres and allows a little more rural types of uses. AR20 is agriculture residential, 20,000 square foot minimum lot size, which is about half an acre.
Thank you.
So I'm trying to go back. There we go. Details of the project. It's on a little over 2.5 acres. The proposal is for 3 campsites. A proposal is also for a restroom and an RV that would be on a parcel to the north. And the reason it's on a parcel to the north is that it's connected to an existing septic system. Access would be from across the parcel to the north. It doesn't have, or they're not proposing direct access onto Willard Road, and there's no direct access onto a public right-of-way. And to show the access, I've got a slide here. The site is to the right. You can see in the yellow crosshatch. The first option for access, which is the access that's been used historically, is on Willard Road, which runs, well, there's the ditch. Cottonwood ditch runs along this alignment, and Willard Road runs along that ditch and from Main Street northward across the ditch on a small bridge and past the site, and then would turn back in on the parcel north of the site. Second option would be off of Old Clarkdale Highway, which goes from Main Street to what would be then Broadway in the town of Clarkdale up to the northwest. Again, this is not a public street like Willard Road. It is a road that's across private properties. And the option to access the property, the campground site, from Old Clarkdale Highway would be a small road going down the hill. There we go, from Old Clarkdale Highway, again crossing a bridge to get across the ditch to access the site from the north. This is the site plan that was submitted by the applicant. The area in yellow is the actual site. The outline of yellow is the 2.58 acre parcel that the campground is proposed on. The larger arrow or the larger circle is around the 3 proposed campsites on the property. The applicant proposes no more than 3. And the smaller circle is around the proposed RV bathroom facility on the northern parcel, and shows the access, the pink access road coming in off of the green Willard Road access. So here are some pictures of the campsites from inside the property. This one's looking west up the hill. You can see the houses up in the Gray Fox Ridge area above the ditch. This is looking north from the site onto the parcel to the north where the restroom RV would be located. And this is the RV that's proposed for that. This is the west edge of the property. This is Willard Road looking north from about the southwest corner of the parcel. So the proposed site is to the east here. And this is the same place looking the opposite direction past the residence directly to the south on Willard Road looking south towards Main Street. And again, this is a little farther north on Willard Road looking north past the northwest corner of the site towards the RV that you can see through the trees there. And this is where the car is the approximate location of where the access would be. This is looking south, southeast from where the access would be off of Willard Road towards the campsites. So the access takes off from Main Street and on Willard Road, and it crosses this bridge, which takes a kind of a sharp jog as you go north across the ditch. I stepped that bridge off, and it's about 13 feet wide, and it's constructed with a wooden plank on the top. This is from the other option, which is the Old Clarkdale Highway entrance. This is Old Clarkdale Highway and where the new road would come in. This is going down the hill from the Old Clarkdale Highway. And it goes around a bend. We need a new clicker here. There we go, it goes down the hill and then to a bend going across the creek or the ditch on an old concrete bridge. So in the staff report, staff has listed the code requirements for the findings that the Planning and Zoning Commission would need to make in order to approve a conditional use permit. If the Planning and Zoning Commission believes they can make those findings and wishes to approve this, then we propose the following stipulations, which are again outlined in your report. It shall be developed in conformance with the site plan submitted with this application that you just saw. The project shall be developed in conformance with the comments of the Code Review Board, February 25th, 2021. No more than 3 campground spaces to be occupied at one time. No RV parking or camping on the site. Project shall be developed in conformance with the zoning ordinance landscaping requirements in section 407. The applicant shall submit to the city document of legal access across all private parcels, and that includes the parcels owned by the applicant from a public right-of-way to the site. And including the parcels owned by the applicant is just in case the parcels get sold off separately at some point in the future, there's still documentation that there's legal access to the parcels, to the site. And applicant shall maintain access roadway in coordination with city fire and police departments to maintain that as well as possible given the circumstances, given the site conditions for those roads. Restroom facilities, they all shall comply with the applicable county health department recommendation or requirements. And if they're located on the adjacent parcel as is proposed, there shall be an easement recorded on the adjacent lot to include any restroom facilities, including the septic system, to serve the campground use. Operation of the campground use may not occur until the city has issued a certificate of compliance documenting compliance with all of these stipulations. So the campground with this stipulation wouldn't be able to operate until all these are complied with. And that the city of Cottonwood may revoke the conditional use permit if the use creates an irremediable public safety problem as determined by the city, or if a certificate of zoning compliance is not issued within 12 months of the approval. So that concludes staff's report. I do have the graphics repeated here at the end, so we can refer to those during the comments. We do have the applicant here available to talk about the proposal. We do also have representatives of the city fire department and Public Works to answer any questions about access and the roads that may come up. And that concludes my presentation, unless you have questions of staff.
I have one question. The stipulation, no more than 3 campground spaces, what does that mean? Exactly.
That means no, the applicant has proposed that there will be only 3 campsites.
Right.
And so those, no more campsites than those 3 could be added on in future dates.
But is there any limitation on number of people? It could be in any one campsite?
We do not have that limitation. That might be something of a compliance or a enforcement issue. If if somebody's in the middle of the night, we don't have our zoning inspectors out there to do that. But holding it to 3 is what's been proposed by the applicant.
But it could be opened up. I mean, we could have multiple people at each campsite.
Right, there's no limit
As long
that
as
we're
they're not
proposing.
causing a public disturbance or whatever, I would assume.
And that would be subject to any other public disturbance ordinances we have. Somebody
Sure.
could call up just like any other neighborhood disorderly house call.
Okay. Well, I think we'll want to hear from, I'd like to hear from the fire department. And I see Commander Dowell from the police department is here. Maybe he could give us a little enlightenment from their standpoint on something like this. Commissioner DeSisto, do you have any technical questions? Any technical questions?
No, not at this time.
Including any? No? No, okay. Commissioner Maston, do you have any technical questions of Gary?
No, not at this time.
Okay, fine. Before we call the applicant up, we have our representative from the fire department. Address us, please.
Good evening.
Yeah.
Rick Contreras, Cottonwood Fire Department. What would you like to know?
Well, I think we're just interested in possibly there's been some indication of possible problems with protecting these properties from fire and so forth because of the access. Could you maybe enlighten us as to what you could do, not do?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. Yeah, so we're here talking about this Vortex campground. Whether that campground was there or it's not there, there's an issue with our access. We will not provide our fire apparatus, the big fire trucks that you see, across that bridge and to these properties. There was a letter sent by our former fire chief, Mike Kirkendall, and Verde Valley, 2 former fire chiefs ago, Nazeh Hazimi, informing the property owners that we don't have normal fire access. So that was sent out in July of 15. So there's 3 serving agencies, fire and EMS, for this island, so to speak, in this area that you see along the yellow Willard Road. And it's Cottonwood Fire, Verde Valley Fire District, and the Verde Valley Ambulance Company. We all struggle with the same issues of access. Typical fire lanes are 20-foot wide, 13.6 vertical. We don't have that in there. However, in the fire code, it does talk about in Chapter 5 when the topography, waterways, these kind of things happen, as long as, like, let's say in this case, the applicant makes reasonable changes to satisfy us, that maybe we can make some kind of assurances in a different way. Again, we will not take a fire apparatus truck there, but it doesn't mean, I've been down there in a pickup truck, which we refer to as a car, and an SUV. Years ago, our old engine 412 went down there, but it was a lot smaller engine, had a lot shorter turning radius, and but we would not do that today because there's no rating on the bridge. The south bridge that normally people use to cross over that is not rated. It was not built by the city. We don't own it. We don't know if there's any inspection processes or anything like that. So we can't risk losing apparatus in there. Will we respond in there? Tonight, if we had to respond there, yes, we will, but we're going to have to be modified on how we do that, depending, is it an EMS call, is it a fire call? Okay, so we will respond there, but just how we do it is just not always the same, depending on what it is. So we are working to that. It's one of our areas that we look at and assess to make sure everybody's safe, the firefighters and our customers, you know, the people that live down there. So with this project, we've met over and over, and we've been down there a lot. And we were just trying to go through, we're going to see what is decided for this project. If they were building a commercial building, we probably would not approve it. What we've rated at this point today, you know, he has to have fire extinguishers down there. We're going to get with him how many and what type. No open flames or smoking will be permitted on this project if it's approved. He's already been notified about the response issue and what our fire lanes are expected. Extra care of fire remediations along this entire property will be strictly adhered to, and they did that. They cleared out a lot of the brush that was down there, so you saw it in the photos. And we encourage the use of the education of the FireWise program that we're really implementing. That's a national program, and they do a great job of it in the Prescott Basin area to help remediate fires. But again, like I said earlier, it's not just about fires. It's EMS too. It could be heart attacks or somebody drowning in the river. You know, that's one of the hazards we got to consider is that waterway. The houses that were built down there in the last 10 years are fully sprinklered per our ordinance. Again, he's not building a house down there at this point, or he's not building a commercial building, so sprinklers are out of the table. So there is a lot to this. He did cut the upper road. The radius turns don't meet our fire apparatus access, and the lights out, and in the grades, but he is working on providing us other access resources. And again, that north bridge is not rated, so we can't take any vehicles across that. I wouldn't even take a pickup across that at this point. And you have a question? I'm sure I'm going to let our fire chief speak to some of this, if you'd like, if the power don't go out. Question for me before I move aside?
Ambulances a problem also?
Okay, so I don't want to speak for them, but the last trip we did down there, Chief Sontman and myself went with the Verde Valley Ambulance Company, chief and assistant chief, and we went over the process. And I don't know, Scott, did you get a letter or any kind of written comments from the Verde Valley Ambulance Company? Okay, so they have responded down there, and I believe they will. I think Chief will speak to that. So I think there'll be some kind of modified response. We will respond there, just not in our normal fashion.
Very fine.
Any other questions for me before he comes? Yes, sir.
You mentioned that they're working on modified access right now. Is that going to solve the problem for EMS and a fire truck to get there and be able to do whatever they need to do, turn around and get out?
No, great question. And I like that you put the turn around and get out part. That's key. No, it's not 100% going to solve that. Will we be able to respond down there? Yes. In a fire apparatus truck, turnaround that you mentioned? No. And the ambulance probably wouldn't take the old Clarkdale Highway down. That's too steep of a grade down there. They probably need a little help getting out, especially if it was muddy or snow. So again, I don't want to speak in full for the Verde Valley Ambulance Company or the Verde Valley Fire District. I think Cottonwood and Verde Valley Fire District has put that letter in writing already to the owners down there. So it speaks for itself, that portion.
My second question is, you say that you would respond to a situation, whether it be a fire or whatever, but on a limited access, which means you would be far away. What exactly does that mean in distance-wise?
Well, again, it depends on the call, and depends on the location of the call, because I know we're here speaking about this Vortex campground, but we have other citizens that live down there. So depending on what the call is and where it's at, and how close we can get the apparatus near there, and maybe we go in on different types of apparatus. You know, it could be an ATV, it could be a pickup truck, or it could be on foot. So it just depends what it is and what we got to do. Okay, and I'll let Chief.
Yes, fine. Yes.
Good evening. Thank you for having us here this evening. As Rick has stated, all those comments are accurate and exactly what was discussed. We spoke with the Verde Valley Ambulance Chief regarding this, and they did determine that they could, under an emergent circumstance, be able to get an ambulance down there. However, they did not. It would be problematic. So as Rick said, we would simply modify our response in order to support that effort by utilizing alternative vehicles and apparatus if we need to respond down there. However, there is no capability of getting fire apparatus down there, which there is an impact. That changes our ability and the tactics and strategies that we use for any given emergency. So that is a concern.
As far as the ambulance goes, I guess the ambulance is all one size, correct?
For the most part, yes, sir.
Yeah. If the ambulance has a problem getting down there and it's a medical emergency, that could be a life and death situation.
That's a fair statement, sir. We would adapt and we would respond accordingly, but it would cause a delay, yes.
Mr. Romeo, do you have any questions of the fire department?
No, thank you.
Mr. Kling?
Can you tell us, this access is something that needs to be addressed for all of the residents, though, correct? Not just for the campground. This is something, a concern we should have for all of them there at this point. Is that accurate?
Yes, ma'am. That is.
Mr. Maston, do you have any questions of the fire chief?
No, I don't.
Okay, fine. I think you've given us a real good rundown on that. We appreciate that very much, that information.
All right, thank you very much.
Good. Thank you for coming. Commander Dow, could we have you up for a quick moment?
Evening, Chairman.
Yes, Commander, glad to see you. Can you think of any issues from a policing standpoint as far as, I guess access probably wouldn't be a problem, particularly for you guys?
Access isn't a problem per se, like the fire department it is.
Right.
But we still have our concerns. The roadway's fairly narrow. I've been down there. It's a good choke point. I can tell you that I don't like going over the bridge, but it is doable. We can respond down there. We already respond to campground areas. We are the primary law enforcement authority for Dead Horse State Park. This is not an uncommon thing for us. As in changing the way we respond to things, we already pretty much do this, and we get some pretty good sizable crowds at Dead Horse, so it wouldn't change the way we operate. The only time we may get a little sticky would be during rain and snow. We have two-wheel drive vehicles like we just talked about, so access could be limited depending on what we did for the access points.
Mr. Sisto, any questions with the commander?
Not at this time. Thank you, Commander.
Mr. Romeo?
Yes, over the past period of time that this campground has been operational, have there been any calls for police to go down to that site?
Not to my knowledge.
No other questions. Thank you.
Mr. Kling? No questions? Mr. Maston, any questions of the commander?
Commander Dowell, are there any special risks to having the campground in this area that you can think of with your experience working with other nearby campgrounds?
Not from a law enforcement perspective, ma'am.
Thank you.
Very good. Commander, thank you very much. We appreciate your attendance. All right. Yes, Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, I should add that we did receive public comments in writing, and
Yes.
we received 3 of them before the packet came out, so 3 of them were in your packet.
Yes.
And several of them have come in since then, and we've accumulated those and printed those out, and they should be in front of you as well.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to call up the applicant or their agent, if you would. And please
Chairman?
identify yourself, please.
By myself?
Excuse me?
Just by myself, or?
You could go both, but
Okay. Mr. Chairman, Commission members, I thank you all for being here and hearing our story tonight.
excuse me, your name, please, sir?
My name is Jason Mccracken.
Okay, for the record, thank you.
Sorry about that. I would like to first address your question about the occupancy. So 4 adults per wood platform per site. Children are free. We also have a sprinkler system set up all out throughout basically the whole property, which are large cannon sprinklers that can spray nearly half a block radius all the way around. This pump that I have connected to the sprinkler system pushes about 5,000 gallons per hour. A brush truck, which is typically the fire truck's response to an outdoor area like this, accompanied with that, is very, very helpful as far as fire danger goes down there in the area. We also had done the second access from Clarkdale Road, addressing the whole area, thinking that this will help with safety. We get probably, I would say, anywhere from 50 to 150 people on the jail trail, sometimes daily, which actually goes through a portion of our property. A lot of the time that I'm there, I'm sort of policing the jail trail and picking up cigarette butts. It's one of the exercises that I do with children that are there, and when we have camps and we're teaching Leave No Trace at Verde River Vortex. So low impact camping. There's no fires. People have to sign up when they book to absolutely agree no fires, or they will be kicked out. No smoking, no fires. So unfortunately, with everything that's going on with the word camping at the moment, with Forest Road 525 and several of these locations that are being overrun, this is not at all what we're doing. We're doing something actually quite different, quite the opposite of that, and we're trying to educate folks about Leave No Trace. I'm a Leave No Trace educator. I'm a professional guide. I work for REI. I've done trips for National Geographic. You name it, I've probably guided a trip for them. I do multi-day trips. I build campsites around our national parks, all of them much more detailed, much larger than what we've decided to do at Verde River Vortex. When the pandemic started, I was put on work furlough, so I thought, maybe this could be a good opportunity to do something where people could socially distance and learn about the outdoors, and also give us, a good reason to try this out. I was unaware at the time that we needed a conditional use permit for such a small operation. This has been a really, really good educational experience for me, and I've learned a lot about the whole process. But it's very, very low impact. The road that we have up on the higher portion of Clarkdale Road there, we most likely would be using that more than the other locations, because this will cut down on noise, this will cut down on some of the neighbors' concerns. Of course, when I started this project, I had no intention of basically making any kind of problems for any of the neighbors or causing noise. There are quiet hours. There's a very strict rule. I've got everything printed out here that I can show you. I'm not sure. I hope that you guys were able to look at my listing and look at the website. And when people book, they have to come and they meet me. It's a meet and greet situation, so it's not just coming and going and people just come into the campsite and basically as they please. Everybody has to get in contact with me. Everybody has to meet me. I then go over all the rules again and reiterate everything that was already in the rules that they agreed to. We have quiet hours at 9. The area is definitely an area where you can hear noise. I mean, I can hear the city, I can hear noise from towns, I can hear farm animals from the adjacent property. It is possible to hear things. So some of the solutions that I've thought about as far as trying to help with the noise situation, the first one would be addressing the traffic on the road that's coming down Willard. So this would be helpful if we're able to use the upper access, which we just had redone. We also intend on putting a layer of basically not asphalt, but very similar to make it much more accessible and not slippery if the weather is, strange conditions with the weather. And some of the solutions that I'd considered that could address the sound, being that we teach Leave No Trace there. I'm a Leave No Trace educator, so when children, families, people come to this campsite, we arrange different things that they can do. Something that I thought would be pretty cool for them is along the trees that border the southern property, which is where the noise seems to be somewhat bothersome. There's a large thicket of trees, anywhere from 10 to 20 feet wide. Oftentimes when it's summertime, you can't see the property at all. It's pretty secluded. But the idea to plant more trees would be something that I would suggest that could be cool and not obtrusive as far as destroying nature to build a large gate or some kind of fence to enclose the property. Also, half of the border between the two properties, there's a berm, a dirt berm that's anywhere from 3 to 4 feet tall. It actually goes along half of our property line, bordering the southern property line, and we could extend that if we if we needed to, or if that could be helpful. I have reached out to our neighbors and offered to sit down and try and discuss anything with them to find maybe a resolution, a positive way to move forward on this. A majority of the folks that come to Verde River Vortex are families. Lots and lots of single parents, single mothers, people that have addressed to me that they're not happy about camping on BLM land, and they've also had issues with public campsites. I have no intention of expanding the camp or making it any larger than it already is. It's 3 sites, and those 3 sites, like I mentioned, 4 people per site. Kiddos are free, and no RVs, no fires, quiet hours, 9 o'clock onward. And I've also, I'm happy to, if there's a problem, complaint from someone, I can address it immediately. I'm always there. I'm on the site. All the guests have my contact information, and they can call me if anyone has an issue, and I'm going to go out there and talk to them. And if they don't abide by the rules, then they would have to leave the campsite. And some of the other things that I have listed here that could potentially be, I think vehicle noise going down Willard was definitely one of the concerns. So like mentioned before, if we start rerouting some of the traffic upward, some of our neighbors won't even see that. They won't have to deal with the traffic at all. And the whole area, regardless of the campsite, the area needs fire protection, and it has for a very long time. We have documentation that says that at some point in history the road was maintained by the city and that the bridge was actually built by the city as well. I have offered to the Planning and Zoning Commission to talk to DPS and have them come out and put load ratings on the bridges. They said that they can do that just for safety, and so people understand what is capable to go over this bridge as far as loads go. Every single day we've got multiple FedEx trucks, UPS, I mean, you name it, the delivery drivers are coming out there all the time. So I think regardless of the campsite, it would be good to have these bridges rated and basically for safety of the whole area. And we have tried to get more information as far as the bridge and some of the maintenance that used to go on in the past with no success, but we do have papers here and letters to the city planner and amongst the previous, the seller of our property that states that it was maintained, and they just don't have a load rating on it. We've also wanted to, for quite some time, to maintain Willard Road. We've reached out to our neighbors and offered to do that for free. Some of our neighbors are really happy about that and would love that to happen. Some of them don't want that to happen. So we anticipate in the future that we will fix our portion of Willard Road. And the UPS, the FedEx, everybody would be very happy about that. And so we think that that will at least help from the campsite perspective and people getting access to the site. And I think that that sums up some of my topics as far as the solutions to the noise go. There was a question when I first opened Verde River Vortex that we were going to use a different parcel of our land, which was further away from the neighbors. It was actually all the way across the field in a very good distance, like over 1,000 feet away. We were told that we could not use that portion of our land because it was not possible to apply for a conditional use permit. The reason that I initially wanted to use that piece of land is because Dead Horse State Park campsite is the same exact zoning as that piece of our land. So I thought that that would be okay, and initially was going to set up the campsites on that portion of land. And then it was brought to our attention that there were some discrepancies there. So then I applied for the conditional use permit for this lot. So another ultimate solution would be to move the site, if that was something that could be doable. And you know, I realize that Dead Horse State Park is actually a state park and under different rules entirely than what we are. But initially I thought that it would be okay because it was the same exact zoning as the lot in front of our house. So,
Oh, ma'am, I'm sorry. No.
and also my grandmother's here, and she's going to address some of the property issues, some of the other things with the actual zoning. We have approximately almost 9 acres of land down there, and the lot that we actually put the campsite on is the one that was that we were told was possible to apply for the conditional use permit. So yes, ideally I would have moved that further away, in which case it would be well out of the 300 feet of any neighbors having any kind of problem with it. But we're going through the process and learning as we go, and appreciate your time and everybody listening to to our story. It's been eventful. All of the guests that have been there have been super awesome. We've never had an emergency. We've never had a problem. I'm a wilderness first responder. I'm CPR certified. I do these trips all over the planet, but especially in Southwest and in Arizona, specializing in multi-day trips. Anything from logistical planning to hosting the camps to building the camps to making sure groups of 2 to 25 people are safe on the trail and come back happy and alive. So I'm used to managing groups of people, and we've never had any issues at all.
Good. A question I have of you is the stipulation number 6 about legal access to all the private parcels. Are you going to be able to?
As far as I know, the neighbor that is south of us most likely will not grant access there, which is one of the reasons why we decided to build the other access point, which is much better, the road that comes up from Clarkdale Road, which would not involve driving on private property or our southern neighbor's easement. It would be coming directly through our property off of Clarkdale Highway. Basically up to Clarkdale, but then you would go on Old Clarkdale Highway and then access the lot there. Of course, I would love to work with our neighbors and try and facilitate something that could be positive and work for all of us. I'm not sure if that's an option. I have offered that to them, and it doesn't seem like that's an option at this time.
Okay. So your property that you control encompass that whole area where your access road would go up to Old Clarkdale Road?
Yeah.
What
yes.
about the bridge going across? Is that on your property?
So that bridge there is not, it was never maintained by the city. That bridge was privately built. We were not sure. Again, that would be a situation when I spoke to DPS about coming out to do the load rating on them. They said that was fine. I thought that could be a good idea, again, regardless of the campsites. I think that the whole neighborhood needs to be safer. And the amount of traffic that we get on the jail trail sometimes is very, very significant. Of course, there's a lot of times urban campers that are out there. Several times in a year, I'll go down there and have to politely ask these people to camp someplace else, and obviously no fires down there and things because our property borders the river there. Some of the other activities I do with guests, we go along the Verde River and we pick up trash. I call them a trash-a-thon, but basically most of the activities we do are to engage the guests with facilitating like a safe and responsible way to camp. And if you go out to Forest Road 525, which I'm sure everybody knows what's going on out there, it's crazy. It's very crazy. So started this hoping to do something different and to show people a different way that they can still camp, they can do this responsibly, and they don't have to necessarily cause that kind of trouble and that kind of ruckus. Everybody packs in what they pack out what they pack in, I'm sorry, and there's not an issue with trash. Again, no fires, it's a very strict rule. They have to agree to this when they arrive there, and no smoking as well.
I understand, and Stan, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Old Clarkdale Road is not also a dedicated road, and it goes across private property. Have you contacted those folks for gaining legal access?
We will have to look further into that. My grandmother has more information on the actual legalities of the easements and things. I'm basically facilitating the camp and managing the camp. She definitely has more of that information than I can offer, so I'd prefer if she answers that for you in a more clear way.
Good. Any questions, Mr. Mccracken, or you want to wait till we talk to his grandma?
Just 2 quick questions. One, you mentioned that DPS came out and did a load test, and you said it's okay. What's okay?
I called DPS to see if they can come out and do a load check, and I had addressed Mr. Contreras with this when they first were coming out to look at the property. And when we had code review, I also mentioned this to the council members and said, you know, maybe I can do this and this could be helpful. Then that way people can understand what the load rating is on the bridge. It seemed like I was the one that was most interested in doing that. Nobody really said that could, they said it would be helpful. But I didn't get back to the DPS gentleman. He said he can come out as, you know, whenever I need him to do the load rating, and actually put a sign on the bridge so people that are using any kind of vehicle. I mean, we've seen some very, very big trucks come across that bridge, and sometimes I'm thinking, that guy's pretty brave.
One quick question.
Yes.
As you probably noticed, I'm really concerned about fire.
Yes.
And you mentioned that there was some sort of system already in place that was like a sprinkler, and I guess it rotated and threw out X amount of gallons of water. Is that at each campsite?
This is correct. There's actually 9 of those sprinklers on the property, and there's 3 of them that go directly to the campsite. So each campsite can actually have their own sprinkler. I built this sprinkler myself, and it shoots about an 1.5 inch diameter stream of water from here to Mccracken Vineyard. One sprinkler does that in a circle. There's 9 of them out there. This pushes about 5,000 gallons per hour in relation to a brush truck that has about 250 to 350 gallons of water on the truck. So if fire were to response and they have their brush truck, we've offered they can use this, no problem at all. I've also put adapters on each of the sprinkler heads where you can screw in a fire hose to it. I was told that I need a different type of adapter, a different kind of threading. I'm absolutely happy to do that if that's helpful. The sprinklers that can be at each campsite are actually mobile, so they plug into those, and then the water from there comes directly from the ditch. So we've got the Cottonwood ditch on one side, and then we've got the Verde River on the other side. You're welcome.
Good. Mr. Romeo, do you have any questions of
I don't, thank you.
Jason? Okay. Commissioner Kling? Question? Commissioner Maston, do you want to questions, or you want to hold them till we hear from Miss Mccracken?
I would like to hear from Mrs. Mccracken.
Okay. Fine. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner.
We'll get that microphone. We're recording this,
right.
and we're on TV also. So.
All right. Okay.
And your name for the record, please, ma'am.
I have copies of the zone.
Excuse me. Can you give us your name for the record?
My name is Claire Creeden Mccracken, and I taught high school down here from 1949 to 1952. I met and married Jack Mccracken, and his family was from the Verde Valley. And because there were no jobs available at that time, we moved to Cottonwood. I remember Cottonwood as a friendly, kind little town. Jenny Garrison was chair of the PTA, but she welcomed my younger brother with his buddy Charles when they went exploring for Indian ruins. Helen Dover found us a rental. We had play practice in this building, and I still treasure the squash blossom necklace that the students gave me. I bought 9 acres off of Willard Road, including the irrigation ditch and bordering the Verde River. It is a gorgeous, unique riparian area. My orchard's now 3 years old, and it may bear fruit. I often walk the jail trail, which is on part of my property. Cottonwood Old Town is prospering, but I do have some explanations of the staff report. Evidently, you have read our exhibits and letters of intent.
Yes, ma'am.
Regarding land use, I have 3 different zones: AG, AR20, and commercial. I could not understand how floodplain, which was not buildable at all, could be zoned one resident every 20,000 square feet. I found that AR-20 was used as what some lawyers call a default zone when there was a large Cottonwood annexation in 2003. So what happened is what they're doing with the Spring Creek thing. They lumped everything into AR-20. We do have one piece of floodplain that is zoned the same as the park. I do have the information on that. If you want to see it, I have the zoning and the map. There was one of our parcels it's zoned exactly like Dead Horse Park, and they do have camping there. And it might be a possibility to move the campsite to that area. Regarding our access, easements for ingress are legal access. My driveway accesses the old Clarkdale Highway, which is maintained by Clarkdale or the county, I'm not sure. The use of an easement is not conditional upon anybody's approval. The report calls the irrigation bridge ditch privately owned. I would like to know who owns it. I talked to the ditch people, they don't own it. I talked to the city, they don't own it. But the city of Cottonwood built it and repaired it, and I would like to read you briefly these letters. First of all, a letter from the former owner of my property. Dear Mr. Simpson, I live at 1350 Willard Road in Cottonwood, and sometime in the 1980s, as I remember, Sunrise Engineering constructed a bridge, which I believe you designed, over the Cottonwood ditch. It was authorized by Brian Mickelson, Cottonwood city manager, and gave us, now 15 residents, ingress and egress. Next letter. Dear Mr. Curran, I am in receipt of your letter inquiring about a bridge in Cottonwood. I must admit, I had to brush off some cobwebs from my memory, but I can recall designing that bridge. It is down by the park, as I recall. Since I was employed by the city as a consultant, serving as the city engineer, I am sure your recollection is correct, and that the bridge was installed and paid for by the city. Next letter. This is September 1987. To residents of Old North Willard Street, the new bridge is now open. I would like to pass on the city's thanks and appreciation for your patience during the construction of the new bridge. As you can tell by driving over the new structure, it has been designed to carry a heavier load than before. The reason for this heavier design is to safely allow fire trucks in emergency situations to have access to your properties. Because of the strengthening requirements of the new bridge, it took the city much longer than originally anticipated to prepare this structure. Your understanding during this time and being forced to use an alternative route is greatly appreciated. Thank you again. I believe this will accommodate your transportation needs as far as crossing the irrigation canal for years to come. I have copies of these if you want them. Regarding the noise, that's the other thing. Many people do use the jail trail, many more than 4 people to each of 3 campsites, I assure you. For the most part, they enjoy it, and they are pretty good. Occasionally there's trash, like Jason said, and noise comes. I hear music from Old Town. I hear sirens in traffic. I hear people talking up on the hill in a subdivision. And I hear people talking on the jail trail. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Good. Any questions, Commissioner DeSisto?
Not at this time.
Mr. Romeo, any questions?
Not at this time. Thank you.
Mr. Kling? Question? Commissioner Maston, any questions? Ms. McCracken?
Not at this time. That is an incredible collection of receipts.
Will you, if anyone wants copies of these letters, I have them.
Yeah, I think we're fine. You've entered them in the record, you read them, and that we appreciate that. That's we're all getting educated, that's for sure. Was remiss, and we have somebody from the Public Works Department, Mr. Director.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, our senior engineer is here if you'd like to ask him any questions.
Well, if he'd come up, that would be great. We may have some questions. Yes, Ms. McCracken, you can have a seat now. Thank you very much.
Good evening.
Your name for the record, please.
My name is James Bramble. I work for the Public Works Department, Engineering for the City of Cottonwood.
Mainly, I guess any question we'd have would be probably from the access standpoint, or what your understandings of the various points of access and the bridges and so forth. I think we all have some, concerns about that.
Certainly.
If you can enlighten us some more.
Well, I was a wee lad in 1985, so I can't speak for any of those letters, but I can speak for today. We do not have any right-of-way, any property that the city owns where that road, either road, accesses those properties down there. They're all private property to my knowledge. The city does have an easement for utilities coming from the south entrance off of Main Street onto North Willard Road, but that's only for utilities, not for access or ingress egress. As far as the bridges, I can't speak to who built them, who repaired them, although currently we certainly don't believe that we own them since they're on private property.
You're not maintaining them or have any responsibility of that?
We have not. I did walk across the south one once to kind of take a look at it, but we have not performed any maintenance on that.
Very fine. Commissioner Sisto, do you have any questions?
I'm not sure. How long would the bridge last?
I don't think I'm qualified to answer that question at this time.
Mr. Romeo?
Do we know who does own and maintain that bridge?
To my knowledge, nobody maintains it, but ownership would fall to whoever's property it would be on, I would assume.
And Gary, maybe later, do you know who owns that property, Gary?
Mr. Davis may be able to help us.
Maybe, but don't count on it, Commissioner Commissioner Romeo. You're correct. It would fall on the parcel, wherever it falls on in relation to the parcel lines, it would be the owner of that bridge. And as I understand it, the ditch association would own an easement across that property, but not the property itself. So it's likely not the ditch association. It would be the owner of the underlying parcel, and the parcel line from this map you see here where it jogs going across the ditch, that's where the location of the bridge is, and it looks like the parcel line follows the ditch It's hard to tell from these aerials. They don't always line up exactly between property lines that the assessor sets on the map with the aerial photo. It's hard to tell if that's supposed to go down the middle of the ditch, one side of the ditch, or the other side of the ditch. It might take a survey to fully answer that question as to who, but the answer is whoever owns the underlying parcel.
Okay, no other questions. Thank you.
Mr. Davis, while you're there, did the applicant provide any recordation of easements along Willard with their application?
No.
Because those are, to be a legal easement, it has to be recorded, is my understanding, public record. As far as you know, you have not received any official document, easement, recorded document?
No, that wasn't part of their application.
Okay.
Which is why we would require it in the future before they start their campground, so we can document it.
Clarkdale Road as well.
Clarkdale, again, if you look at the parcel map, it follows, the parcel line follows the road more or less, but which side of the parcel line it's on and whether there are easements there, we haven't. That's in the county area. The black line on this map that you see, that's the city limits. So just to the north of the access road that winds its way down to the ditch, that's all county in there. But we don't. Again, there's no documentation that we've seen that's an easement granted for general use.
And as far as you know, you're not sure the county or the cities, I guess it would be within the city limits.
City certainly doesn't maintain it because it's not within the city limits.
It looks like somebody's been improving on the Clarkdale side. I don't know if the Clarkdale's doing that or whatever.
I don't know. Well, Clarkdale starts at the red line, so between the red line and the black line, that's in the county.
That's in the county, okay.
Yeah.
So maybe the county's doing something. We don't have any knowledge of that at this point. But as far as your understanding, the old Clarkdale Road, at least coming south to the city, is private land.
It's not. Yeah. There's no public right of way.
No public right of way.
Right.
Very good. Commissioner Kling.
If you did maintain this road, if that was, are you able to offhand make any recommendations how we can bring this to safety? Are you?
So currently, this road really doesn't meet current standards for public roadways where we would like to see it. Roadway width, grades, turning radius, side slopes on your shoulders. I could make several recommendations, but really you would have to take a serious look at it from a current standards point. But I suspect that the radius on the north side, the north access, would not meet current standards for the size of the radius to be able to make those turns with large trucks. Fire apparatus being one, but delivery trucks, any other design vehicle like that we would look at. As far as the bridge goes, not having any record of how that was constructed, I mean, my recommendation would be to start over, but that would be me.
Very fine. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Maston, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to ignore you. Do you have any questions?
No, thank you. I didn't feel ignored. I know I'm invisible.
Yes.
I do not have any questions for the engineer at this time. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you both very much. All right, we've received several letters and emails. They're outside of our packet. It would look like they are in support of it. One is from Flagstaff, one's from Phoenix, and there's two emails, and I'm not sure where those folks are from, but they are in support of the project. We did have one email in our packet which opposed the granting of the conditional use permit. So at this time, we're going to open up the discussion to the public, and we have a large number of people would like to speak. We'd ask that you come to the podium, give us your name and if your address that you live at, please, would be helpful. We will limit your time to 3 minutes to speak to us, and we would ask if to help speed this process up, that if your comments have been, or your concerns have been addressed by a prior speaker, we'd appreciate you being brief and not reiterating and bringing back subject time after time to us. We'll understand that either for or against it. Let's start out with Dan. Just Thanks. I'm sure I'm going to butcher that name and start it. And I understand you're in support of this project.
Yes, sir.
Give us your name and address, please.
My name is Daniel DiStefano, and I live at 716 3rd North Street in Clarkdale. So I am here in support of the Verde River Vortex. I am a major advocate for the sustainability and conservation of our beautiful river. As an advisory board member for One for the Verde, a nonprofit organization that partners with local businesses to raise money for conservation projects. I have known Jason Mccracken for many years and am well aware of his passion and respect for the outdoors. Throughout the years, I have frequented his property and seen his hip camp operation firsthand. This is a well thought out and peaceful and clean operation that only gives 3 fortunate families at a time the opportunity to pitch a tent and enjoy our scenic river. Excuse me. It is my belief that sharing our beautiful river with folks that come in from out of town is crucial to raising awareness of what is inevitably going to happen. It will disappear. I am also on the Clarkdale's General Planning Committee. One of our focuses on this committee is adopting a plan for small tourism, which is an ideology that promotes tourism, but on a limited basis and with minimal effects on a town's permanent residences, while still promoting economic benefit to our small locally owned businesses. This hip camp is centrally located between downtown Clarkdale and Old Town Cottonwood and is beneficial in promoting small tourism in both towns. I would hope that everyone here will consider the benefits of having a cool operation like this available to our visitors and the charm that it adds to our small town living. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate your comments. Next up, Damian Green. Name and your address, please. You can take your mask off.
My name is Damian Green. I live at 1160 North Old Clarkdale Highway, which is on the map right there. It's the Clarkdale RV Park. It's a smaller park, 15 spaces. I believe I'm in support of this. I came here today not really knowing what to expect. It seems like a reasonable proposal. I do have one question about the bathroom being on the lot next to it. It makes me wonder why the 2 sites haven't been combined, and for future thought, in case they wanted to sell half the property, what happens to that bathroom situation? That's my only kind of concern, but I think it seems reasonable anyway. I do have other concerns about that roadway. That bridge is going to need some maintenance for sure. That it's like a wood-covered bridge, and at some point, there's many planks that are coming up, and it's falling apart. It needs maintenance. I don't know how to go about fixing that, but I think the city needs to kind of start addressing that at some point. But other than that, I think that's all I really have to say. So, yeah.
Thank you. We appreciate it very much. Thank you very much. Okay. Doing good here. Everybody's on time. George and Judy Weissong. Your name and address, please, sir. Would you pull the mic down so we can hear you? Thank you.
My name is George Whitesong. I live at 1500 North Willard Road. And my question is, when they have that right-of-way there at the coming down from Clarkdale down into that bridge there, we live in the house on the end. Will that be a problem for us when we come out and come back in? You know, and it's what I was wanting to say on that.
Mm-hmm. You in the house at the end of Willard?
Yes, I'm at the house at the end of Willard.
Okay.
And I just, you know, right at the very end there, that's where I'm at. And I just wondered, either way, it's going to be confusing for us because of the way of the roadway is and everything. We can't pass two cars, and it's going to be a problem on that part too. So that's all I got to say.
Very fine, sir. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Mr. Judd Watson.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I live at the property and my family at the just south of the site up here. We're the house that most approximates the camping area. I submitted something in the packet. And I've said this to Jason, this is a great plan. No doubt with his experience, what he's able to accomplish. This is just the wrong location for this type of project. The camping on this project already kicked off last year in July. And we called the city in August and asked about that because of the noise level. And it's not just a noise level of people walking on the jail trail. We hear that. We hear, like Claire mentioned, we hear Old Town traffic. These are conversations. These are activities that are right next to our property, and it is significantly loud to the extent that it was a nuisance, and we contacted the city. I have a couple clarifications on the bridges. That north bridge is not used by any FedEx, UPS deliveries. That's not used at all. It's the south bridge that's mostly used, and I hope you each took the time to go down and inspect that. There's been several vehicles that have gone off the bridge. It's an unsafe bridge, and in regards to who maintains it, Mrs. Mccracken mentioned those letters. Those letters have been presented to the city several years ago by Charles Curran, where she received those letters from. He's the previous owner. I recently, last December, spoke with the city about that, and there has been the response under then town manager Doug Bartosh, the same response. It's not the city's responsibility, and they don't own the bridge. So that would be a great thing that I think everybody on Willard Road would love to get behind and have the bridge fixed. The city is saying that they have no responsibility for that. In terms of who's maintaining it, we are. There were 2 planks that went out of that bridge. You could see down through the bottom to the canal, and that was maintained locally by us residents down there. In terms of the site location, I feel there's a few things that have not been represented here this evening. There was an initial code review meeting on this project last November. And in that meeting was invited Dead Horse State Park, since they abut up to this project. They had several concerns. In your packet and even in that presentation, that was not included in there.
Mr. Watson, I'm sorry, our 3 minutes are up. We have so many speakers, I don't want to cut you off, but we do have a number of speakers.
I find that putting a limitation, with all due respect, for me on this project that has been 9 months in the making, it took us nearly 6 months for the city to close this down in spite of the violations that were issued. and you want me to come up here in 3 minutes and talk about issues that are not addressed in this, that are not fully addressed in this packet, I don't think that's reasonable.
Well, you did submit quite a bit of data to the submission, which was very helpful, very informative, and unfortunately, if I didn't have 10 other people to speak, let's see how that goes. But we've got to put a limit on it. We just can't be here.
So is the fact that the state parks have commented and said that they have issues with this not relevant to this, even though it's not incorporated into this discussion? When I last contacted the state park, they had sent a letter to the city regarding those issues. They're not presented
Mr.
here
Lawson,
this evening.
I'm sorry. I need to intercede. We appreciate your input. You had some excellent input written into it, and much appreciated. Candace Self.
Hello, I'm Candace Self, and my house is at 1089 North Willard Road. It's the first house as you enter this neighborhood. The road in this area is so bad and unmaintained. It's one lane. It's not conducive to having any more traffic on it than it already has, which is not much. The noise level, I am not willing to put up with. This is a quiet neighborhood, secluded. Very few people even know this area is down there. And I am vehemently opposed to more traffic, a campsite. There are many places in the Verde Valley where people can pitch tents, and I don't think it should be in a small neighborhood.
Thank you very
Would you like the rest of my time?
There's 2 minutes left.
2 minutes. I'll speak a little bit faster and maybe with less monotone. Sorry, I'm probably putting some people to sleep. I'd like to submit to you, I've got on Willard Road, there are 9 residents.
It's in the packet.
This isn't in the packet. This isn't in the packet. There are 9 residents along Willard Road. 7 of 9 residents have signed an opposition to this, and they're included in here. There are additional residents, 9 additional residents, and they basically surround this project. They have all signed an opposition to this project. This isn't in the packet. Their names are listed here. But the only 2 that didn't sign this in opposition to this campground or any commercial development in our residential area are the Mccrackens and their neighbor immediately to the north. Otherwise, our neighborhood down there and up on the ridge in Gray Fox have signed this because there is an impact. And I think by limiting time, specifically mine, you're not addressing all of the issues that are involved in this. So can I submit this to Scott, somebody?
Paula Harold.
Thank you. My name is Paula Harold. I live at 520 North Rio Arriba here in Cottonwood. I also oppose this. I am a resident in a similar greenbelt residential neighborhood surrounded by families, surrounded by agricultural land. I myself am very concerned of setting a precedent here. We bought into an expensive property for that peace, for that beauty, not for commercial development. By allowing this in a residential neighborhood, there is nothing to say that similarly in my greenbelt area, this would not be happening. Again, I think you need to look at the residential landscape of what's around you. They have significant road issues. We don't necessarily have that. However, if you approve this, you set a precedent. And Call me crazy, but I don't think any of you would want tents pitched next to your homes. Judd, you may have the rest of my time.
That's fine. As long as we stay in the time limits, I'm fine.
So I want to talk about the state parks issues that aren't being addressed here today. In checking with the state parks, they have submitted a letter to planning and zoning regarding that, and I hear no discussion of that at all here this evening. There's also the issue of the restroom facility that's on the parcel next to that. Initially, the city told me that that was not allowed. And if you look on those code review reports, each of those reports has the health department here in Cottonwood referencing the county health department. I've called the county and it says on there, check with county health department. I haven't heard any reference to checking with the county health department. When I contacted the health department, the county health department, and this is the environmental division, there is no record for a permit on that northern parcel where that restroom is for a septic tank. There is also, they sent over the copies of that parcel. There is no recorded or permitted septic tank on that parcel, and there is no link from the existing tank to the existing parcel. They don't have that. So there's not a discussion here tonight regarding that, but that's from the county. So we're talking about a project that has so many question marks by it, safety questions, but the bathroom is a health concern as well. And it does not, according to the county itself, have any permits for a septic system there.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Mario and Trudy Sanchez. Take your time, ma'am. Would you pull?
I can have whatever I have left.
Yeah, pull it. Your name, and you could take
Trudy
your mask
Sanchez.
off. Would you take your mask off down so we can hear you better? Thank you.
Trudy Sanchez, 1157 North Willard Road. My main concern is the bridge. We have 9 residents down there, as Judd said. It's not built for commercial. We're all supposedly just resident families. So we don't need a commercial outlet in there. The road won't handle it. The bridge won't handle it. I'm definitely opposed. And the city was maintaining that bridge. Now, for whatever reason, they say it's not their problem anymore. But the lady just announced that they built it. So it should be their responsibility to take care of it. We've had, out of the 9, we've lived there 15 years. And today, one more person went off that bridge and had to be towed back. We've had 5 that I know of, and every one of them were residents in the 15 years. So we don't need public people that don't know that bridge when we have problems ourselves with that bridge. I'll let Judd have my time. I appreciate your listening to us at all.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it too. Minute and 25 seconds, Mr. Boston.
I want to just reiterate the issue, the concerns of the road, the easement. When Jason was speaking, he mentioned that he approached us about improving the road, and that's not is not our road to improve. It was owned by somebody else, and we could not grant permission to make any improvements to that road. Under the easement, it's somebody else's property. And the aspect, there was a paper that was published and sent up to the Gray Fox Ridge residents that said that this project does not bring in any traffic or is not associated with noise. And I want to state specifically, for us, besides the issues related to safety, to the road, to the access, it is a nuisance with the noise. Each night, we are subject to conversations, and many of them are conversations of people that are coming into town for reunions. There's bikers that are there, and it's a lot of conversation turns to lewd conversation. And at 9 o'clock, the conversation does not turn off. You can say that all you want, but that does not turn off at 9 o'clock p.m.
Fine, thank you, sir. Rick Tyler.
How you doing, sir?
Your name
Counselor?
and your address, please.
My name's Richard Tyler, and I live at 1500 North Willard Road, all the way to the back with my aunt and uncle. And I've lived there 8 years. I've seen nothing but the bridge deteriorate. Now, this is the north and south bridge. They could fall in at any moment. The road's just terrible. It's just, nobody wants to take responsibility for it. Somebody built it sometime back in the 50s or whenever, but nobody wants to take responsibility for the road or both bridges. And it makes it a fire hazard back there. You heard the fire chief and everybody else. If something, the wrong situation occurred back there, you know how things go wrong, we could all be burned up, you know what I mean, and not have any way to get out. That's what we're concerned about. Plus, the extra traffic, the extra, you know, people just wandering around and, you know, doing what campers do, you know. I mean, we live back there. We don't really care for it, you know. We just like to live back there in peace, you know. So that's all I got to say.
Mr. Judd, 2 minutes, sir.
I know this is getting old. I apologize. It doesn't. In terms of the road itself, if you took the time to go down that, and this alternative entrance that's being proposed is down such a steep grade of road, and at the bottom is a hairpin turn. There's a reason why the fire trucks can't get down there. Since we've lived there, there has been a fire. Somebody on the jail trail started a fire, and they could not get any fire apparatuses down there. It was a range truck that went down in there. We have spent an enormous amount of time cleaning up debris in that area. I have worked with the fire department to clean up debris. And I appreciate Jason mentioning the sprinkler system. I think that's a great thing. We've all kind of cleaned up. There's a flood in '92 that deposited an enormous amount of fuel down there, but it's very dry. Those campsites, their proximity to our location, to our property, those sprinklers would basically use those northern parcels. If there's a fire, it's going to conduct itself down that corridor towards Old Town. That's where all the dry fuel is, and that's not where the sprinklers are. And regarding the campsite locations, I know Gary had a photo up there, or it was a rendition of the campsites. Those locations are not accurate. I've got a photo I can submit to you that was taken from an aerial drone that will indicate that those are not the sites where he's proposing. Those aren't the actual sites. They're much closer to our property.
Thank you, sir. Jim Waddington.
Hello, my name's Jim Waddington. I live at 1450 North Willard Road. I would be on the north bridge you have to cross. That's the second bridge. Someone referred to it as a covered bridge. There's no cover on that bridge. It's just a slab of concrete. The roads themselves in this whole area are like driving on the river bottom. I've gone through many tires and many cars. I love living there. I hate the roads. So if all the roads could be fixed for a project like this, I might be for it, but I'm not for it. That hairpin thing where they come off in the north brings them across the second bridge, which is where my house is. I can't even see how an RV could make it down there. So, and safety with a fire, yeah, sure, I'm very concerned about that. And the fireman said he wouldn't drive his own pickup truck over the bridge or something like that, so that'll tell you. But if they fix the roads, maybe someday. Sorry, I'm a nervous speaker. I don't like talking.
Oh, no, that's fine. Thank you. Suzanne Reed.
Good evening. My name is Suzanne Reed, and I live at 1405 North Eagleview Drive with my husband, Robert. We live in the Gray Fox Ridge development. Our house was shown in one of the photos presented earlier. My husband and I have lived at this address since February of 2014. We purchased that particular lot in Gray Fox Ridge for the view and the backyard privacy. Our view goes on for miles. It is a peaceful place with the sounds of birds chirping, wings flapping, coyotes howling, and owls hooting in the evening. In the first couple of years, we saw javelina and deer in the green land below us. We used to refer to that land below as the Serengeti because of the greenery and the wildlife activity. But then one day, it was mowed down, and we wondered why. Then we heard a generator pump going on for hours and days, and the water sprinklers were shooting water onto the dry land, flooding the land. And we wondered, what are they doing down there? Then a tractor was plowing the land into piles. None of the debris was removed, it was just pushed around. Then we heard vehicles and people. Campers arriving late at night, setting up camp and using their headlights and flashlights to illuminate their campsite. We could see the campers and what they were doing. I never witnessed any group instruction or educational classes by Mr. Mccracken, as he stated in his presentation this evening. Through this all, I thought, does the city know? Is this legal? Can citizens just open their land to start a campground or business in a community without informing their neighbors? What about the impact on the neighbors? What about the change to the neighborhood? When I looked up the website HipCamp, which they are going to be using, the stress on that website is to being a good neighbor. We were never informed by the Mccrackens. My husband and I have never met the Mccrackens until this evening, sitting in front of us. We were never informed by the city of Cottonwood until we received a letter about this meeting tonight. My husband and I are adamantly opposed to having the Mccrackens plan a campground. They have made an impact already on our patch of paradise. Please do not give them a conditional use permit to continue to destroy our enjoyment, our neighbors' enjoyment, and our neighborhood. And I have photographs of what it looks like from our view, from our house on the land below. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sherry Steinke.
Good evening. My name is Sherry Steinke. My address is 1415 North Eagleview Drive. I concur wholeheartedly with Suzanne Reed and Bob Reed. They are our neighbors. My husband could not make it tonight due to eye surgery. Concurring and following up on Suzanne, we have witnessed misuse of the property, in our opinion, in that the beautification has not happened. Trees have been mulled over, piled up. There has been witness of people changing their clothes outside. There have been RVs down there, small campers, not just tents. At one time, there were multiple families at the east side, and there were parties, it seemed like, going on all night. We have also witnessed human urination. We have witnessed dogs running. And on the property off of Old Clarkdale Highway, which is where they dug the area and the hairpin turn, blah, 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 there was a camper set up there, or people camping out of a car. We did call the police. The police did respond. The police sent out 3, maybe 4 cruisers, 1 to our house, 2 down below. At that time, there was a girl who was missing, and they thought perhaps they were with the campers down there. If this does continue, which I hope it does not, I hope that the city maintains the roads, maintains the bridges, surveys the areas, and makes sure that everything is as it is supposed to be done by the city, because what I'm seeing right now is not happening. I'm sorry, I'm getting a very bad pain in the back of my head. Like I said, there have been RVs there, and I see trees mold down, planting trees. They knock down trees to make their campsites. So how would planting trees make any more of a difference? We hear people drag their trash cans down there, so how can cars and big trucks go up and down the road? It's a sad thing. There's safety. There's our neighborhood being destroyed, and I hope that the city takes our input into consideration.
Thank you very much.
Oh, and I did see a fire also. There was one campfire down there. I almost forgot that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all of the, Joe Falosetta and Mary DeYoung. Your name and address, sir, please.
Joe Falosetta, 1310 Old Clarkdale Highway. Our property is 2.5 acres just north of the Cottonwood city line and west of Old Clarkdale Highway. So we're building a house up there, and we learned about this conditional use application because of a posting, not because of a letter. So I'm not sure why we were late to the game, but I can tell you I came here tonight, as did Mary, to listen and learn. And I can say that I think the city of Cottonwood needs more people like Jason who want to make a difference and to bring more richness and depth. However, to all the issues raised by everybody in the room tonight, they need to be solved. There is a major issue here that, is sort of the elephant in the room. There's a lot of people living in danger right now along Willard Road. The city needs to step up and fix it. The same goes with the condition of Old Clarkdale Highway. It is a no man's land road that bears fixing by the city. So quickly, I'll give you my suggestions. 1, the stipulations need to clarify issues, many of them having to do with, for example, RVs and travel trailers and how big things can be. Operating hours, noise, and the rest of it, right? So I mentioned access and safety. They need to be resolved before we put more people in danger, okay? My understanding of GA and the conditional use permit says camping is one of the businesses that are allowed under a GA designation. My view is fix the access issues, the public safety issues, and the like, and move on. Finally, something not brought up tonight, and I think bears a observation, and potentially Jason would jump on this, is that there is currently a trail just south of the city line that belongs to Gray Fox Ridge. That trail is part of a master trail system that is being designed and developed by the city of Cottonwood. It appears to me there is an opportunity to extend that trail to the east through the Mccracken properties and to hook up with the jail trail. I would just submit to the members of the council and to others who are involved and interested that this should be considered as a suggestion. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate that. All right, I have two more. Chris Smith. Your name and address, please.
Chris Smith, 2040 Old Jerome Highway, Clarkdale, Arizona, 86324. I'm in support of the Verde Valley Vortex, Jason, and also Claire Mccracken's idea. And as long, reiterating what the gentleman just had said, I see in Jason, he's trying to make, he's trying to put out effort to compromise, trying to make things happen. But as he said, I think the major issue is not this campsite, it's the safety of those people out there. And the city should take care of that, figure out who owns the bridge. You can't figure out the easements, you don't know who even owns the bridge. If you figure that out, then maybe everything will work out, move on. But I think it's a positive move. Some people are upset. My house, someone built a house across the street. I can't see the peaks from it, but I'm still there and I make the most of my house. Compromise. And again, I'm in support.
Thank you very much. Dan Remke.
I'm Dan Remkus. I reside at 1099 North Willard, and I'll be very brief because I think the issues that I wanted to bring up have already been discussed in some detail. Number one, the bad precedent of mixing commercial in a very fragile residential area like this. The second is the fire concern. I've had 3 close friends lose their homes to brush fires, one just a few years ago in Reading, which destroyed over 1,000 homes. The applicant is obviously very aware of the issue of fire and has done a lot to, most of their application is, that I've seen, is about mitigating fire. But of course, they can't reduce the risk to zero. When you have people down there and more activity, there is some increased risk of fire. And it isn't just campfires and cigarettes. In San Diego, there was a large 500-acre brush fire ultimately determined to be ignited by a catalytic converter on a vehicle. So those things need to be, I think you are considering those strongly, but I don't support the conditional use permit.
Thank you very much. All right.
Mr. Chairman, I was informed that Aaron Cassidy would like to speak. I guess there was a form filled out. I don't know if you have it in front of you.
Okay, Mr. Cassidy?
Mr. Chairman, my name's Aaron Cassidy. I live at 1340 North Old Clarkdale Highway, and I own that bridge that you all are talking about, the North Bridge, and I own the private land before it. And there will not be general traffic across it.
Fine.
That's all I had to say.
Right. You own that land?
I own the land before the bridge, and I own the bridge. I put the bridge in '66.
Okay.
And there were, when the South Bridge, when it broke down and they repaired it, I let people drive across my bridge in there to their houses so they'd have a way in, okay? But that bridge was just built for cars and pickups, nothing else. But I own it, if you want to know who owns it, all right?
Fine. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. All right. With that, I'm going to close the floor to the public. Mr. Davis, do you have any other comments before we proceed?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Wasden mentioned the state park. They did submit a comment, and I had thought we had emailed and forwarded it to you, but I'm not sure that it made it into your packet. But let me read it into the record. I happen to have it pulled up here. And this is from George Christensen at the Dead Horse Ranch State Park. Says his concerns are impact on threatened and endangered species, common black hawk, southwest willow flycatcher nesting along this reach of the Verde River. Both species are located along this reach. Noise and human disturbance will disturb wildlife travel corridors and nesting areas. Social trails from the camping area will impact habitat and cause erosion and silt issues. Sanitation issues will affect water quality, improper waste disposal, runoff from the property, and increased full body contact in the river could impact fecal coliform downstream of the use area. Fire concerns, access to the area is restricted by the bridge across Cottonwood Ditch. Bridge may not be rated safe for even the lighter Type 6 brush trucks, definitely not safe for large fire engines. And possible exclusion of public from public property by the campers acting as the property is part of the private property. Campers are not expected to know the boundaries between public and private property. Thank you for asking us about our concerns.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. All right, now I'm going to close the floor to the public for comment from each commissioner. Commissioner DeSisto, we'll start with you, sir.
No comment at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Romeo, how do you feel about this overall? You want to give us your insights, plus and minus?
My concerns still are, I think, what has been brought out here tonight, the concern of the residents, their safety. I'm still concerned about the fire issue. That's a main thing with me. Access, as the fire commissioner expressed, turning around, getting out of there, the condition of the bridge, and so I am not in favor of this vortex.
Thank you. Commissioner Romero, your comments and feelings on this proposal.
Yeah, I think it's important to know that, we as commissioners, we're not here to set precedents. Camping is allowed with certain conditions, and all 6 conditions have to be met in order for we, the commission, to grant this permit. 2 of those conditions are traffic and circulation and infrastructure, not to mention the nuisance condition. And it's abundantly clear to me that infrastructure is the major concern for the residents who live there currently, and I can't imagine allowing additional traffic to go over those bridges. So for that reason, I'm opposed to this project.
Thank you. Commissioner Kling. Comments and thoughts.
Well, I so appreciate you all taking time to come out and introduce us to your stance. There's so many valid points here. I, at first glance, was very inclined to support this. I support all that it offers, but there are legitimate concerns here for the neighbors, for the safety of the existing residents. And I think before, like she said, there's stipulations that would all have to be met in order for us to approve that. That's still something in process. If we could get through that, I would love to approve it, but safety-wise, it's not even an option without addressing the existing residents. Safety first.
Thank you. Vice Chairman Maston.
There's an echo. My opinion is that this is the type of project that the Verde Valley and Cottonwood in particular needs more of. Unfortunately, this particular project, there's just too many details that aren't coming together. In particular, as has been mentioned, the health and safety. But for me, the sticking point is really traffic and circulation. I do not see a way forward that allows for the kind of safe circulation of both residents and guests to the campground Given the issues with the easements and the private versus public property and the bridges, even if you can get those bridges rated, it's still not going to be adequate. And that's before even getting into safety vehicles. So while typically I am inclined to vote heavily in favor of projects like this, in this particular case, I don't feel that it's responsible.
Okay. I would second that. Driven down that road twice this afternoon. We went across the concrete bridge and cleared to the end of the road and back. And I just barely got back across the concrete bridge without dropping my rear tire into the ditch. So I think it does present a number of problems. One of the things that I've been on this commission for 11 years is we have a responsibility to protect our single-family residential properties from adverse influences, whether they may be commercial or whatever, any of that possibility. Also for the intrusion of commercial properties and uses within, in the middle of a residential area, which I personally think that even though it's agricultural zoned, it's been developed exclusively residential. Basically all the people along that road have expressed concerns with that, and that bothers me a lot. I think that enforcing the number of people that would use this site and any noise problems would be problematic for our police department. If this project were on a parcel that had good commercial access, good dedicated highway access or road access, there's a question as far as legal access. It appears that that is an extreme problem, even if we were to approve this with that stipulation. That's going to be a game stopper, I think, at least along Willard Road. If the bridge is owned by a separate person and they're not agreeable for access along the north side, that presents a problem going up that road as well, if that in fact is the case. Yes, I would like to, I'm sorry, man, the floor is closed to the public. We need to, and we want to encourage additional camping facilities and other places for people, the tourists, to come in and enjoy our beautiful area. It's just, again, to me, this could be a good project, it's just in the wrong place. And it could be well done in another place, hopefully, that can be found. I just don't think we should be approving a commercial use in the middle of this residential area. Vice Chairman Mass and I would entertain a motion, if you would, go as set forth, and we'll do a vote on that motion.
Yes, sir. If the commission desires to approve this item, the suggested motion, I move to approve CUP 21-001 to allow operation of a campground business at 1253 North Willard Road, subject to the following stipulations. 1, the project shall be developed in conformance with the site plans submitted with this application and reviewed by the Planning and Zoning Commission on April 19, 2021. 2, the project shall be developed in conformance with the comments of the Code Review Board dated February 25, 2021, CRB 20-046. 3, no more than 3 campground spaces may be occupied at one time. 4, no recreational vehicle camping or parking shall be permitted. 5, The project shall be developed in conformance with the zoning ordinance section 407 landscaping requirements. 6. Applicant shall submit to the city documentation of legal access across all private parcels, including the parcels owned by the applicant, from a public right-of-way to the site. 7. Applicant shall maintain access roadway in coordination with the city fire and police departments. 8. Restroom facilities shall comply with all applicable county health department requirements, and if located on an adjacent parcel, an easement shall be recorded on the adjacent lot to include any restroom facilities, including septic system, serving the campground use. 9. Operation of the campground use may not occur until the city has issued a certificate of zoning compliance documenting compliance with all stipulations. 10. The city of Cottonwood may revoke the conditional use permits, CUP, if the use creates an irremediable public safety problem as determined by the city, or if a certificate of zoning compliance is not issued within 12 months of conditional use permit approval.
Do I have a second to that motion? If not, I'm going to second that motion so we can have a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner DeSisto?
Aye.
Commissioner Romeo?
Wait.
Mr. Sisto, do you approve of the motion to approve this project?
Yes, I do.
Okay, good.
Nay. Commissioner Kling?
What was your vote? I'm sorry.
Aye, if they can meet these stipulations.
You're saying yes vote? Yeah, that's fine. Okay, that's fine. Okay, good. All right.
Vice Chairman Maston?
Nay.
Chairman Williams?
Nay. Motion fails to carry on a 3-2 vote. Thank you all. We appreciate everybody attendance tonight, and this has been a tough one to tackle, and we need to get on with the rest of our business. We'll, if everybody would like, we'll take a minute here to let everybody leave if they'd like to, unless they want to stay for the rest of the items on our agenda. Is DR 21002, Tiger Self-Storage Expansion. Design review.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Williams, members of the Commission. As you stated, this is a design review for a Tiger Self-Storage Expansion, Design Review 21-002 for the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting on April 19th, 2021. This is the expansion of an existing storage facility located on Jennifer Drive. The existing facility is at the very end actually has a Justin Drive address. This expansion would be on those 3 parcels to the north of the subject site. The parcels combined would be approximately 1.06 acres. One building is proposed for climate controlled, 2 are not climate controlled. The main office and administrative activities will continue to be operated out of the existing facility, so this area of expansion is only the mini storage units themselves and no office type uses. This is a site plan that you would see for there are 3 underlying parcels here that would be combined. To the south is where the existing units are located. Their landscaping, mainly along Jennifer Drive, meets code. Along the rear portion of those properties, there is also a 15-foot required landscape setback area due to the adjacent zoning on the property to the north. This is an architectural rendering of what the entrance to the 3 new parcels would look like. And their colors are basically a tan and a shade of blue that they're proposing, which coordinates with what they have existing at the existing facility. Subject site is, this is 3 parcels that you're looking at in that area. They're all basically cleared and relatively flat. Looking off to the north on the other side of those, the row of bushes there, is where the proposed Inspiration multifamily apartments would be located on the other side. And a vacant parcel across Jennifer Drive. Property to the east, this is the existing storage unit that the proposed expansion would add on to. Property to the west is a commercial industrial type use. Looking to the west and also looking to the east is generally an industrial manufacturing type neighborhood. With this expansion would be compatible with what is existing in the neighborhood. And there is no camping proposed at this site. With that, that concludes my presentation.
Commissioner Garrison has recused himself on this item as well. Commissioner DeSisto, any questions of Jim at this point?
No questions, Commissioner.
Mr. Romeo, any questions of Jim at this point?
No questions.
Mr. Kling, any questions? Vice Chairman, any questions of Jim on this project?
Yes, just a quick one. I see in the packet that they talk about a pedestrian pathway. Can you point that out to me on the plans? I'm just not, it's not jumping out at me.
Can you show me where the reference to pedestrian pathway?
Yes, hang on, I just had it. It's under changes to the plan. It says changes to the plan, section X in the type of self-storage expansion letter of intent.
This is the applicant, the architect of record. Could I answer that?
We do have Nicole Poston Thompson, who is the applicant. Let us get through the portion of staff presentation, and there will be an opportunity for you to speak, Nicole.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry about that. I thought you guys had already seen it. I'll wait.
All right, fine. If the applicant could answer that question.
Okay, Nicole, would you like to go ahead and answer that question?
Sure. The pedestrian pathway is located, we're adding a pedestrian path along the street frontage, and then it connects on the north side to the east building. So there is a ADA pathway from the pedestrian sidewalk at the street all the way to the north entry of the east building. And that was something that we discussed in our code review to complete that pathway along the street frontage.
Okay, that clarifies for me. Thank you.
Any other questions, Vice Chairman? Jim?
No, Jim's good.
Okay. Nicole, would you like to enlighten us some more? Any additional comments on this project that you're building?
Thank you, Chairman, the commissioners of the board. Thank you for having us. I've enjoyed working with your staff here at Cottonwood. Very pleasant staff and easy to work with. The project is owned by one family. They've owned it for quite some time, and they're hoping to expand onto these 3 properties because they are nearly full at capacity on their existing facility. Everything's covered under the presentation by your staff. I just have one question on the stipulations. Item number 5 under stipulations, it says certificate of zoning compliance shall be issued within 12 months of planning commission action. My question is, does that mean we need it permitted and built within 12 months of today's approval?
That is generally what that condition would read, that it would need, to be completed within that time.
Okay.
If 12 months is not appropriate, then what would you propose?
Yeah, we're having some construction issues, labor shortages, product delays. I mean, a lot of things were affected from the COVID and the pandemic. I would appreciate if we could get more time, more like 2 to 3 years. Gives my client time to get the project in budget. Because construction prices have increased astronomically over the last 6 months since we started the project. And then we don't have to come back for another review.
Yeah, one alternative we've done in the past is instead of completion is the issuance of a building permit within 12 months. Do you think you'll be able to meet that condition to start construction?
Well, normally I would say absolutely. He got his preliminary budget back, and because of the 300% increase of structural over the last 6 months, he's over budget. So I would guess that he may put it off for a year to see if the construction costs equalize or come down a bit. I would respectfully ask for 24 months for a permit, if that's possible. And is there, I guess my second part of that question, if we get to that deadline, is there a renewal that we can do, or do we have to come back in front of the board?
A building permit is good for 180 days, and they can ask for a one-time extension of 180 days. So a building permit could be effective for 1 year after it is issued.
Okay. So if we had 2 years, we could have up to 3 if we ask for 2 extensions, if that's acceptable.
Your original permit would be good for 180 days, and then one extension for 180 days.
Okay.
All right, real fine. Other than that, I don't have a...
So basically changing that condition to
How would you like it read?
A certificate of... Building permit shall be pulled within 24 months from this date of Planning Commission action.
That's acceptable. Thank you.
Okay, that's something we'll consider. Very good. Any other questions of Jim or the applicant? Anybody? All set. Okay, Vice Chairman, any other questions?
No, none at this time.
Okay. We have one person from the audience who would like to address the commission on this issue.
Good evening, staff and commissioners. My name is Randy Garrison, 1059 South 8th Street, Cottonwood, Arizona. This project abuts family land. Our family is currently in escrow selling the parcel directly to the east of this site. And there's two concerns I have. One is this is going to be a continuation of what is an enormously grand wall that runs almost the entire length of our property. The part that's already existing is a regular slump block wall or a cinder block wall. It's painted. It has no textures. I really appreciate the length of work that the architect has gone to try and make this a visually appealing site. I also appreciate that they've put landscaping along that 15-foot setback. The existing buildings have no landscaping. I would really love to see the stipulation put in place that they will dress up that section of existing facilities to match something consistent with what they're adding on to this project. The other is they're asking for signage, and I know signage is not part of this permit. Currently, they'll come back and ask for signage, but they're making the largest portion of this new construction a giant sign that will directly face my property, and I really don't agree with that. I think that should be left out, and like I said, I know that's not part of this process, but it will come back for consideration in the future, and so I just want to throw that out there now so the developer and the owner have time to think about that. So those are my concerns. Thank you very much.
On a block wall between your two properties, what you're...
Yeah, there's an existing structure directly to the south of this portion.
Right.
And this portion is, like I said, they've gone to great lengths to use structural architecture to break up the visibility of that. The existing structure has none of that. It's just a cinder block wall that's painted, and there's no landscaping in that setback whatsoever. So there's going to be a fairly stark contrast between the new construction and the old. And the parcel that we own is currently in escrow with a developer that's going to put 192 apartments on that site. So you're going to have a very large amount of people who are going to have to look down on this property. And it just isn't visually appealing on the older section. The new section will be really nice, but the older section not so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
I'm not sure legally we can stipulate to that condition of requiring re-landscaping or so forth for an existing parcel. Mr. Director, any comments?
If it's an extension and an expansion of an already existing use, and this is part of the design to expand that, you can put additional stipulations on there.
To go back on the other property as well?
Yes.
Okay. All right. That's interesting. All right.
Can I address a question on signs also?
Yeah.
The rear of the property there, any signage would have to be along a frontage. So any signage to be placed on the rear of those facing the adjacent properties would not be something that would be permitted by code.
Okay. Can we also probably make a stipulation about signage coming back before the commission? Post signage for consideration.
Additional signage shall be
Right.
done by a separate permit.
Right. I think that's something I would like to see anyway. Nicole, your any comments from the applicant regarding possibly landscaping in front of the existing project? And
Well, there isn't much frontage on, along Jennifer Drive, I think it's called. I do believe he's talking about the east property line of the existing facility. I would have to confer to my owner about how he intends to upgrade that area. I know it wasn't his intention to upgrade at this time, and I would hate to see it as a stipulation. But I can definitely have that conversation with the owner.
okay. Good.
And we understand the signage on the east side will not be allowed by code, and that's fine.
Very good. Anything else? Anybody else want to address? I don't see anybody else in the audience here to address this. So we'll close the floor to the public. Unless you have something else, Jim, you need to add?
With the current zoning, somebody could come in with a 35-foot industrial type building located on those properties. The single-story expansion of an adjacent use would seem to be lesser of an impact to future development of any type on any surrounding property, to have a single-story flat roof structure as opposed to a potentially 35-foot high, 2.5-story limit industrial facility of some sort.
Okay, thank you. All right, Commissioner DeSisto, your comments regarding our discussion and maybe additional stipulation with regard to landscaping, possibly the other parcel as well, to mitigate the view from the adjoining property to the east.
Well, first of all, the comments on the landscaping, I feel should be landscaped if that was, I believe, is an issue. And then actually, I'm not sure about what Mr. Garrison was concerned about, other than there was going to be a wall, and this wall was going to impede the view of the residential homes. So, you know, I'm really not sure. I originally was in agreement to go along with the expansion of the storage units, but now I believe there should be stipulations concerning at least the landscaping.
Okay, very good. Commissioner Romeo.
I don't have any issues with this project. I think it makes sense to continue this, the expansion of it. I'm okay if the commission here feels that landscape requirements are in place. I think I'm more inclined to request it of the applicant, and I am in favor of the 24-month time frame to issue the building permit.
Commissioner Kling.
I acknowledge that.
You want to pull that thing right up to your mouth almost. Yeah, speak right in loud.
I'm in support of the expansion. I know that there's a shortage of storage. I've called everywhere from Cornville to Clarkdale. There are no storage units available, as well as affordable housing, and I support both needs. I think if we can address the issues for the neighboring property that's to go in, by that time, hopefully, with the extension of timeline, both can be possible and cooperative.
Vice Chairman, your comments, please.
In terms of the type of industrial projects that can abut more residential projects, I think that this is a really good example of something that bridges the gap well. It's, as was mentioned, it's single story. They're obviously working to make it more attractive. I am concerned about the landscaping, especially as we are going to be putting residential near this. So I would like to add a stipulation that the owner put together a landscape plan that includes the area of the wall of their existing storage property. And I also support the 4-month extension as well. I think that that's reasonable given the climate.
Very good. Thank you. I would agree with that, those stipulations. I think Mr. Garrison has some legitimate concerns with that, and if we can legally do that, I think it'd be a good time to do that, get it done on that existing property, so to help buffer that between that and the project to the east.
When you're coming up with the wording for that landscape requirement on the existing portion,
yes.
I think possibly you should put on there whatever area is available. The area to the east that will be the multifamily project was recently rezoned to PAD.
Right.
I'm not sure when the existing was developed, if it has a 15-foot setback. That 15-foot setback is required now because of that zoning behind. There may not be 15 feet behind the existing, and I'm not quite certain what that, they would have been required to place their building at whatever the setback was at the time and what the zoning was on that adjacent parcel behind, which could be which was different than we're looking at now.
Yeah, there would be a setback, though.
There would be a setback, but it may not be 15 feet.
So it may not be able to landscape it to the extent that of the proposed unit because of the wider setback, but some mitigating vegetation could be put in there, I would imagine.
In whatever area is available or possible.
So if I use that phrase, whatever area is available, then that is the signal that they don't have to accommodate those other existing parts of the code. To clarify?
Jim?
I think they would still have the one tree for every 25 feet, or, if they only have a 5-foot setback, that's going to be difficult for large vegetation. If it's, shrubs and lower ground cover, then yes, that would be able to be put back there. It all depends on what that setback was.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Director, any other comments with regard to that issue?
No, sir. Mr. Chairman, I was actually just looking through our landscape ordinance, and you guys are on the right track for what you're doing.
Okay, very good. Vice Chairman, I entertain a motion.
I motion that I move to approve DR 21-002 to allow Tiger Mini Storage to construct additional storage units at 261, 271, and 281 Jennifer Drive, subject to the following stipulations. 1, the project shall be developed in conformance with the development plans as approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission at the April 19, 2021 meeting. 2, the project shall conform to Code Review Board comments dated January 28, 2021. 3, the 3 lots must be combined into one parcel through the Yavapai County Assessor's Office prior to application for building permits. 4, The project shall comply with all building, engineering, and fire department requirements. 5, a landscape plan must be developed to include the existing eastern wall using whatever area is available. 6, all signage must be approved by a separate conditional use permit through the planning and zoning. And 7, the building permit shall be pulled within 24 months of this planning and zoning development action.
May I correct your
Yes.
stipulation on the signage? Signage does not required to come back for a conditional use permit. It would be approved at a staff level, but they do have to submit for a sign permit, but not a conditional use permit.
No, but we could require it to come back to us for review as well. I think that's what we're talking about.
Okay.
In this case, it may be fine for staff. In most cases it is. But maybe it's, in this case, maybe we need to take a look at that. Yes, Director.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, it is up to the commission if you want that sign to come back, but I would definitely clarify, like Jim said in the stipulations, that it is not a conditional use permit. It would come back for design review only.
Vice Chairman?
Thank you. I'll adjust.
Okay, you amend your motion then on that?
I amend. The signage stipulation shall read, all signage must be approved by design review of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
All right. Now, before I do a second, we're talking about building permits issued within 24 months. Do we need the certificate of zoning compliance?
No, I think the existing number 5 could be
The
omitted
building
completely.
permit would not be issued without the compliance, right?
Correct.
Okay, real fine. Our Director Jim, everything, your wording clear enough for you both? Okay, very good. I'll entertain a second to the motion.
I'll second the motion.
Commissioner Romeo seconds the Vice Chairman's motion. Roll call vote, please, Megan.
Commissioner DeSisto?
Aye.
Commissioner Romeo?
Aye.
Commissioner Kling?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Maston?
Aye.
Chairman Williams?
Aye. Motion unanimously carried. Good luck, Nicole. It's a good-looking project, and we hope we can work something out on that landscaping. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Board. Thank you, Chairman.
All right, our next item of business is a conditional use permit 21002, the Millage Guest House on Main Street.
Thank you, Chairman Williams, members of the commission. As you stated, this is a request for a guest house at 766 North Main Street. Presently, there is an existing guest house at this location. If you recall, recently we had a rezoning and general plan amendment on an adjacent parcel. This is the same applicant, but not to be confused with the previous project that was done. The guest house that is presently there is 864 square feet and it did receive permits to be constructed in 1989. By our current codes now, the maximum livable area is 750 square feet. So their request to modify this from a 1-bedroom to a 2-bedroom unit with all those changes happening interior, no additional exterior space would be constructed. All the modification and change and expansion would be interior. That is why we're coming to you with a request for a conditional use permit to expand a pre-existing non-conforming use. So the expansion is coming basically and going from a 1-bedroom to a 2-bedroom. It's not changing the existing square footage of the building that is already there. This is the front of the building on Main Street. This is the main house. And this is the existing guest house to the rear. This is a site plan that shows the existing house and where the existing guest house that would be remodeled is located to the rear. This is a floor plan that's submitted showing the two-bedroom layout with elevations for the north and south, and then the two side east and west elevations. And some surrounding properties across Main Street. There is other commercial and residential uses. The property to the east is a gallery, and to the west, a single-family home. And looking up and down Main Street to the east, this property is similar to many others along, especially on this south side of Main Street. And then looking back west on Main Street. So with that, that concludes what I have in my presentation. We do have the property owners with us, Ken and Jill Mihalich, I saw earlier, so if you have any questions from them as well, and I'm available for any questions.
Mr. DeSisto, any questions?
So there is a main house, and then behind the main house is a guest house, correct?
Correct.
And they just want to add to that guest house, another room or whatever.
They're basically changing the interior floor plan of the existing guest house and changing it from a one-bedroom to a two-bedroom.
Thank you.
Mr. Garrison, any questions that you?
No, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Romeo, any questions?
No questions.
Mr. Kling, no questions? Vice Chairman, you have any questions of Jim?
No.
I think it's pretty clear to me as to what they're doing. We're not modifying the exterior. We're not expanding it, even though it's non-conforming use. It's there. They're just going to go from a two-bedroom or efficiency to a two-bedroom apartment. Okay, very fine. Anybody have any questions of the applicant either? Fine, I think we're pretty good on that. I don't see anybody in the audience that needs to speak to this issue, so I'll close the floor to the public. Commissioner Garrison, your comments, sir.
I have none. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner Sisto.
No comments, sir.
Okay. Commissioner Romeo, your thoughts?
I have no issues with this.
Mr. Kling, any thoughts? Vice Chairman, your thoughts and comments?
Looks good.
Looks good? Mm-hmm. All right, real fine. I would agree. I think since we're really not doing anything outside, it's inside. We've done a couple of these recently in other properties, similar kind of situations. So I would definitely be in favor of the approval of this. Vice Chairman, I'll entertain a motion, please.
I move to approve conditional use permit 21-002 to allow the expansion of the existing guest house at 766 North Main Street, subject to the following stipulations. 1, the project shall be developed in conformance with the site plan submitted with this application and reviewed by the Planning and Zoning Commission on April 19, 2021. 2, that the project complies with all building, engineering, and fire department requirements. 3, a certificate of zoning compliance documenting the completion of conditions shall be issued within 12 months from the date of this approval. 4, the City of Cottonwood may revoke the conditional use permit if the use creates an irremediable public safety problem as determined by the city, or if a certificate of zoning compliance is not issued within 12 months of conditional use permit approval.
Boilerplate.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Mr. Sisto seconds the vice chairman's motion. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Garrison?
Aye.
Commissioner DeSisto?
Aye.
Commissioner Romeo?
Aye.
Commissioner Kling?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Maston?
Aye.
Chairman Williams?
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good luck. Our next item and last item, or not our last item, but our next item is a amendment to our City of Cottonwood zoning ordinance 404 general provisions regarding walls and fences. Mr. Davis, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, Gary Davis with Community Development, City of Cottonwood. This is a proposal to amend the zoning code to change the permitted height of walls and fences. Currently, the way the city code works is that in a front yard setback in a lot, you can have up to a 3-foot wall or fence if it's solid, or 4 foot if it's see-through. And in an exterior yard setback, which means a setback on a side lot line that's on a corner lot, the side lot line faces the side street, so that's the exterior side. The same rule applies, 3-foot solid, 4-foot see-through. Elsewhere on the lot, on the interior side and on the rear, the fence could be 6 feet. This, we found, is very, very unusual among jurisdictions around here and others I've known personally that that would require a lower fence on a side yard setback, even if it's on a corner lot. Normally, 6-foot fences and walls are allowed on a side yard, even on a corner lot. So our proposal is to simplify things a little bit, saying you can have a 4-foot solid or see-through fence in a front yard setback, and elsewhere on the lot, you could have a 6-foot solid or see-through fence. And this would be, the exception to this would be if there's a sight triangle at the corner to allow for visibility for vehicles at a street corner. We come in 25 feet on either dimension and make a triangle out of that. So we'll diagram that here. So this is a typical lot on a corner. And right now, as I indicated, the maximum height of a wall or fence in not only the front yard setback, but also on the exterior side setback would be a maximum of 3 to 4 feet, again, depending on whether it's solid or a see-through fence. And then a 6-foot fence would be allowed. Well, there's the sight triangle I was talking about. That would require the fence to go down to 2 feet to prevent blocking vehicle views of the side street oncoming traffic. So elsewhere on the lot, in the red, 6-foot fence would be allowed. What we're proposing is to basically just change that. So, and in the current situation, if somebody wanted to enclose their yard with a full 6-foot fence, they would have to do it behind the exterior side setback. So they get a smaller private rear yard than other people in the neighborhood do that just have interior lots, interior side setbacks. So what we're proposing is to allow for the 6-foot fence around all the sides and the rear, with the exception of the front setback, the depth of the front setback, whatever that may be. Again, with the exception for the sight triangle at the corner. In industrial areas, our code says, okay, the 6-foot fence requirement is the same, and the 4-foot in the front is the same, but it can be higher for schools and other public or quasi-public institutions, or in industrial areas with a conditional conditional use permit approval that's gone through the Planning and Zoning Commission. We're proposing to leave this very similar, except that it would be subject to design review instead of a conditional use permit, because very often when new projects are coming through, proposing new fences, it's usually a design review situation anyway, rather than a conditional use permit. So this wouldn't require a separate $800 application for a conditional use permit just to deal with the fence height. That can be dealt with at the same time as the rest of the design review. So that concludes our rundown of the proposal. I'd be happy to address any questions you may have.
With a regular interior lot, you can do 6-foot fences around backyard, right? Starting from the front setback.
Interior, you can.
Yeah, it'd be the same, right?
Currently, yes.
Yeah. All right. Now, my house faces 2 streets. I've got
front and back.
Front and back.
A through street.
Yes.
I would have to see how we deal. We've got special provisions for through streets. I don't know if it's a situation where we have to decide which one is the front and which one is the rear.
Well, Palo Verde is the main street. The back street, basically, I believe it's city maintained, but it's APSCO, and I think that was an easement basically for houses, and then also APS has a substation down the end of that. But there is a 50-foot, I believe, easement there. But is that considered frontage on a street, or?
If it's a public right-of-way, it is considered same as a street. But we'd look at all of this on a case-by-case basis. We do have definitions in the ordinance on what constitutes a front yard versus a side yard.
Okay, so if it was just an easement but a city-maintained street, but it was strictly as an easement and not a city-dedicated street, would that make a difference?
It could. Again, we'd look at it on a case-by-case basis, look at the facts of it.
I'm not planning on putting a 6-foot fence, but it's always been in my mind interesting to, what that would be, or the possibilities would that be, since we're fairly unique in that, but there's several of us that have that situation.
And Mr. Chairman, too, there's the possibility that there's an alley back there, and that's a public right-of-way as well. But we would consider that to be a rear lot line in most cases.
Right.
So I think it might be similar, but again, it would be a case-by-case basis. We'd have to look at what the nature of that frontage is in the rear.
This is basically addressing the corner lot issue.
Right.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is an issue that we run into frequently throughout the year, multiple people having this issue with fences. I do apologize, Gary, if you mentioned it and I missed it. From our research, it appears that we're not necessarily alone, but pretty alone on this requirement. Not any other place doesn't allow a 6-foot fence on their street side setback.
Fine. Commissioner Garrison, any questions?
Yeah, a couple. Could you go to the next slide, please? So I like raising the front fence to 4 feet. 3 feet is kind of ridiculous. You can step right over a 3-foot fence, so it's not going to stop a dog. I like the 6-foot fence thing. They're all over town. And if you go over here on Cactus, to your point, there's 4 houses on Cactus alone that have a 6-foot fence in the backyard, which faces Mesquite. So you've got a road on both sides of that property, and they already exist there also, and there's no problems. The one concern I had, and you answered it with your visual, so I appreciate that, is the setback of the 6-foot wall. You're saying is whatever the front setback is from the property line for construction. And when I read through this, I didn't see anything that really made that clear. So I was confused about where exactly that 6-foot fence line would have to stop. From my reading, it was going to have to come all the way, or is going to be allowed to come all the way out to that front property line because it's a side. So that would be my only concern, is that we make sure that's really clear, that the 6 foot can only go up to the setback for the front yard regardless. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Not trying to make things difficult. It just, when I was reading it, I couldn't get that. And so I want to make sure the public understands what you're doing. I know you do.
We have a good definition for front setback somewhere?
Well, the way that would read is no solid view obscuring wall or fence over 4 feet high shall be constructed or maintained nearer to the street line than the required front yard setback line. And that, we've always interpreted it as being that distance from the street. So you'd have to, if that's a 20-foot front setback line, your 6-foot fence can start at 20 feet.
No, I
within
appreciate
front-
that, and I see it now. I didn't before, and I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Good point. Commissioner DeSisto, any questions?
No questions.
Romeo, any questions?
No questions.
Commissioner Kling, any questions?
No, sir.
Vice Chairman, any questions on this?
No.
I don't have any either. Like I say, just my house was, I'm one of those unique guys, but that would be a case by case. That would be, I can understand that situation. All right, Vice Chairman, not to beat this to death, but we'll entertain a motion.
I move to recommend approval to the City Council the proposed amendments to Section 404.J.
Do I have a second to that motion?
Second that motion.
Commissioner Romeo seconds the Vice Chairman's motion. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Garrison?
Aye.
Commissioner DeSisto?
Aye.
Commissioner Romeo?
Aye.
Commissioner Kling?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Maston?
Aye.
Chairman Williams?
Aye, unanimously carried. Good work. That's much needed. Yes, as Commissioner Garrison says, there's violations all over the city.
My house included.
Up in my neighborhood too.
My house, I actually had, the owner of it back in the 70s actually had to get a variance to allow for that. And we wouldn't allow for a variance for that now.
No, there's a lot of them. Very good. Our last item, Mr. Director, the general plan update.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Gary, you'll go ahead and
Okay, Gary, it's all yours, sir.
lead this discussion as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And given the late hour and it's approaching my bedtime very rapidly, I'm not going to dwell on this a whole lot. I just wanted to give you access to the state statutes involving the enactment of a general plan and what's required and what a general plan is. And I'll let you look through that at your leisure, but I just wanted to point out a few things. In the middle of the first page, under letter C, the state law actually gives a pretty good definition of what a general plan is. It says general plan shall consist of, this is what it is, shall consist of a statement of community goals and development policies. That's it. It's a policy document. It's our goals. It's our policies. Plan shall include maps, any necessary diagrams, and text setting forth objectives. So this establishes that a general plan is different from code because it's a policy document. It says this is generally where we want to go. This is what we want to do. This is a contract arrived at by our interaction with the public. Every 10 years, we do a major update of the general plan. And this is the general direction we want to go in. It's not code. It's not something we enforce. Code is an extension of the general plan. And this is how we enact the policies of the general plan. The code provisions are the ones we enforce, like we just talked about, the fence heights. There's nothing in the general plan about fence heights, except there might be something in there about development regulations should be reasonable and attainable, something like that. That's kind of the difference between the general plan and the code. The other thing that this portion of the ARS does is state what elements are required in a general plan and what elements are optional. And the optional ones depend on, for some cities of certain size, it's required, but cities of a different size, it's optional. And for us, these optional sections are optional. We don't fit into those mandatory categories. But the mandatory category that does affect everybody is there are two elements that every plan has to have. That's a land use element, and that's a circulation element. And land use element has to designate the general distribution and location and extent of uses for land. In other words, this general area is going to be residential high density. This general area is going to be residential low density. Again, it's not a zoning classification that we enforce, but it's a general guidance as to what types of zones should be there, what types of development we want to see there. And a number of other things in a land use element that must be there. Circulation element, that talks about transportation basically, existing and proposed arterial and collector streets, bicycle routes, and other modes of transportation as may be appropriate, all correlated with the land use element. So those two kind of go hand in hand. Transportation and land use are very much meshed together. So those are the two things that are absolutely required for all cities. Now for us, these other elements are optional. We do have a number of those. Obviously, we do have the circulation and the land use element in our general plan right now. But for other cities, it may include an open space element. We have an open space and parks element. Growth area element, we have one of those. An environmental planning element, discussing policies and strategies to address anticipated effects on air quality, water quality, et cetera. We have one of those. Cost of development element, talking about measures to reduce the cost of development, keep it reasonable. We have one of those. Water resources element, have one of those. And another one we have, and then other optional ones are conservation element. We do not have one of those. Recreation element, we don't, but that's part of the open space and recreation element that we do have. Circulation element may include building setback requirements, get into a little more in-depth. Public services and facilities element, public buildings element, we don't have. Housing element, we do have. We do have a housing element. Conservation, rehabilitation, and redevelopment, we don't have one of those, or a safety element. Or a bicycling element, but again, that can be part of the circulation, and it is in ours. And a neighborhood preservation and revitalization element, which we do not have. What we do have that's not required is a historic preservation element, as well as economic development. So that gives you kind of a rundown of what's required in a general plan and what its function is. And later on in the document, it talks about all the procedures that the city has to go through. First thing we would need to do is adopt written procedures to provide effective, early, and continuous public participation in the development of this update to engage the public. So that we'll be moving forward with that first thing. And also to consult with other jurisdictions as we're preparing this. And it goes to the Planning Commission at least 60 days before the general plan goes to the can be approved by the council. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of guide you through that a little bit if you wanted to get familiar with what we'll be doing starting fairly soon.
Any questions? Yes, Mr. Garrison.
Not on this, but on section 7.
On
agenda item 7.
Oh, okay.
But not on this. Thank you for the presentation.
What is your question?
So this is talking about topics for future meetings. Does this commission ever meet with the council? Because by design, we're a approval authority for the council, and it would be, I think, helpful for us to be able to confer with the council, at least get an idea of what their thoughts are on a lot of the things that we're talking about. Tonight we talked about two of the things that are in our general plan, which was access to property and land use and whether it's appropriate or not. Also, we're talking about density. The Millage House was a discussion about density, and I think there hasn't been a meeting I've been to yet that workforce housing and housing for citizens hasn't been a topic of discussion in the plans that we're making, or at least the approvals that we're going forward with to the council. And I really would love to see us have a conversation with the council on whether we should be looking at higher densities in areas that right now currently aren't zoned that direction, and whether that's appropriate or not by their definition before we start into these conversations amongst ourselves and then have it pushed forward to them and not have them approve it after all. So I really would like to see if we couldn't get on the same page with the council and have an understanding of what their goals are.
My remembrance, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure if you were on the council then, but I think the last meeting we had, a joint meeting with the council, was considering 89 and Vine presentation that they were making at the time, and they were requesting an adjustment of the PAD zoning at that point. But that's been probably 7-8 years ago.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I believe that was in 2015, maybe 2016 when that happened. It was a joint session.
Was that when it was?
It was
Okay,
for
it seemed like
89 and
longer
Vine,
than that. Maybe.
Yeah.
All right. Mr. City Manager, how do you get your comment on this? I would certainly agree with that. I've been wondering that myself as to, I guess it's up to the City Council to grant that, but I think it's an excellent idea, and we do have some things coming up. I think we need to coordinate and get an idea of what the council's feeling.
Mr. Chair, absolutely. We can make that happen. We had talked about it actually before COVID. I think the P&Z Commission seems stable. I hope we don't have any more vacancies for a while. And so I think it'd be a good time we could do that. Just give us a little time to get reset up at the new, at the old city chambers, and I'll get with the mayor and we'll get something scheduled for later May or June before we can make that happen.
Yeah.
But I think it's a good idea. We can get us all on the same sheet of music and move forward.
Yeah, we could meet here since it's larger, or the council chamber doesn't lend itself for a joint meeting.
No, probably we'd move back to the rec center. This we're starting to rent this out. Lorenda's got several weddings planned for in here, and so it'll be set up very differently. But we'll find a place.
Yeah, that worked real well for the last one, and I found it personally very helpful when we did that, just to get a feel of what do they think we're doing. How they think we're doing. Are we, are we feeling in remission or succeeding? We're not getting very much feedback on that. So I think a joint meeting, and there's new council members. We have a number of new commissioners, and hopefully it would be helpful to all of us to do that.
Scott and I'll, the community development director and I will make that happen for, like I said, probably May or June, but we'll get her set up.
Very good. Any other comments? Programs you'd like to see? Very fine. Without any further ado, then I'll make a motion. Yes, Mr. Director.
No, sorry. I thought you were going to ask if I need anything. I'm good.
I'm going to adjourn and make a motion to adjourn this meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Romeo, second. All in favor? Aye. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much for your attention.